Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, empty void, staring into the depths of nothingness. For Friedrich Nietzsche, this very experience of emptiness, where meaning and value seem to dissolve into oblivion, was not just a philosophical concept but a defining feature of modern life. Nihilism, as Nietzsche saw it, is the consequence of the realization that the traditional sources of meaning, God, religion, and metaphysical certainty are no longer tenable in the face of scientific rationality and historical progress. This void becomes a harrowing reality for individuals and societies that must grapple with the collapse of old values. But Nietzsche does not leave us in despair. In fact, his exploration of nihilism is also an invitation to transcend it, offering a way out through the transformative power of art and aesthetics. This essay delves into Nietzsche's exploration of nihilism, its causes, and the paths toward overcoming it, with a special focus on how art and aesthetics serve as the channels through which we might recover meaning and purpose in a world devoid of inherent value. Welcome to the unfolding journey, where we embark on deep philosophical explorations and dive into the core ideas that shape our understanding of the world. Today's video will take us on a profound journey through Friedrich Nietzsche's critique of nihilism and his ideas about overcoming it through art and aesthetics. Whether you're new to Nietzsche's philosophy or have explored his work before, this discussion will illuminate some of the most powerful and challenging ideas that still resonate with us today. So sit back, relax, and let's begin our journey into the depths of nihilism and the search for meaning. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies his diagnosis of nihilism. Nihilism is the belief that life lacks inherent meaning, purpose, or value. This view emerged prominently in the aftermath of the Enlightenment, which emphasized reason and science, while gradually eroding the traditional metaphysical foundations of belief, such as religion. For Nietzsche, the death of God, the metaphorical and symbolic idea that Western civilization no longer fully believes in God, was a major turning point that led to nihilism. In his famous proclamation, "God is dead," Nietzsche does not mean that God has literally died, but that the belief in God and the metaphysical worldview associated with Christianity no longer provide the guiding moral and existential framework for modern life. Nietzsche saw this death as both liberating and terrifying. The liberation came from the possibility of rejecting traditional moral systems that were based on religious dogma. However, the terror stemmed from the profound emptiness that would ensue when there were no longer any transcendent values to live by. The loss of God, for Nietzsche, also meant the collapse of a whole set of values that had anchored human life for centuries. This, he argued, led to a pervasive sense of meaninglessness or nihilism. It was not just a philosophical issue, it was a psychological and cultural crisis. Modern individuals, no longer guided by divine commands, were left to face an existential vacuum. What was left when everything they once believed in was now called into question? Nietzsche attributed the rise of nihilism to several interrelated causes. The first and most prominent was the growth of scientific rationalism. As science progressed, it explained more and more aspects of the natural world without needing to invoke supernatural or religious explanations. This process, which began with figures like Copernicus, Galileo, and Darwin, fundamentally altered how people viewed themselves in the cosmos. With the triumph of science came a loss of the belief in metaphysical or transcendent explanations of existence. If everything could be explained by natural causes, then the notion of a purposeful universe or a divine plan seemed increasingly implausible. Another major cause was the decline of metaphysics itself. The traditional metaphysical systems, especially those that underpinned religious belief, had become increasingly untenable. Rationalism, skepticism, and critical philosophy had exposed many of the assumptions of religious and metaphysical systems as outdated, irrational, or false. As the belief in an objective, divine order faded, so did the source of moral and existential values. Without a transcendent foundation, moral systems and cultural values became subjective and arbitrary. Nietzsche's critique of nihilism, therefore, was not just an abstract philosophical problem. It was deeply tied to the development of modernity, with its emphasis on reason, individualism, and the questioning of traditional authorities. The existential void left in the wake of this intellectual revolution was a central concern of Nietzsche's work. In response to nihilism, Nietzsche did not advocate for despair or resignation. Rather, he argued that nihilism, as a recognition of life's inherent meaninglessness, could be overcome through a radical revaluation of values. Nietzsche believed that the key to overcoming nihilism lay in the embrace of life itself, with all of its chaos, suffering, and unpredictability. One of Nietzsche's most important concepts in this regard is the will to power. For Nietzsche, the will to power is not just a desire for dominance over others. It is a fundamental drive to create, to assert oneself, and to overcome obstacles. It is the creative force that drives human beings to shape their lives and the world according to their own will, rather than relying on external, objective sources of meaning. In this way, the will to power offers a path to overcoming nihilism, not through submission to a higher authority, but through self-affirmation and self-creation. Nietzsche also introduced the concept of the Übermensch, the overman or superman, a figure who transcends conventional morality and embraces life fully, without relying on traditional values or metaphysical certainties. The Übermensch is an individual who creates their own values and meaning, a model of radical self-overcoming. This idea is encapsulated in Nietzsche's famous phrase, "Become who you are." In other words, rather than seeking meaning in external sources, one must look inward and find the strength to live authentically, creating new values out of one's own experiences and desires. While Nietzsche proposed the will to power and the Übermensch as pathways out of nihilism, he also emphasized the critical role of art and aesthetics in overcoming the despair of meaninglessness. Art, for Nietzsche, was not merely a form of entertainment or beauty, but a profound mode of engaging with the world. Through art, human beings could impose form and meaning onto the chaos of existence. In his early work, The Birth of Tragedy, Nietzsche argues that Greek tragedy represents the highest achievement of art because it reconciles the two fundamental forces of existence, the Apollonian and the Dionysian. The Apollonian represents order, structure, and rationality, while the Dionysian embodies chaos, passion, and irrationality. Tragedy, in Nietzsche's view, captures the tension between these forces, showing the suffering and disorder of life, but also affirming it through the beauty and transcendence of art. Art, then, allows individuals to confront the abyss of nihilism directly, not by retreating into illusion, but by acknowledging the harshness of life and still finding a way to affirm it. Nietzsche believed that art's ability to transform suffering and chaos into something beautiful and meaningful offered a path to overcoming nihilism. Rather than seeing life as a series of empty, purposeless events, art invites us to create our own meaning through imagination and expression. Nietzsche's aesthetic philosophy is a call to engage with life on its own terms. He rejects the ascetic ideal, which seeks to deny or transcend suffering, in favor of embracing it as part of the human condition. Through art, individuals can see beyond the horrors of existence and transform them into something transcendent. Art becomes the vehicle through which the individual asserts their will to power and creates meaning from the void. For Nietzsche, the overcoming of nihilism is not an intellectual process alone. It is an existential and artistic transformation. By confronting the meaningless of existence and choosing to engage with the world artistically, we are able to transcend nihilism and affirm life's beauty, even in its harshness. In the face of nihilism, Nietzsche offers not despair, but a radical call to action, to embrace the void, to affirm life, and to create meaning in the absence of inherent value. The death of God and the collapse of traditional values are not an end, but a beginning, a moment for the individual to take up the challenge of self-creation. Through the will to power, the Übermensch, and especially through art, Nietzsche presents a way to transcend nihilism and find meaning in an otherwise indifferent world. Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to engage with life fully, to recognize its suffering and chaos, and to create beauty and purpose through our own will. Art and aesthetics become the ultimate tools for this creative act, allowing us to transform the nihilistic void into something that is profoundly meaningful and uniquely ours. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Nietzsche's views on nihilism and the role of art in overcoming it. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the unfolding journey. We have many more philosophical explorations ahead, so stay tuned for our next video. Let's continue to unfold the depths of human thought together.